Thank you to Grant. We're going to move on to Morgan Odom. She's a public affairs specialist for the Mosaic Company, and she works in community relations in Polk and Hardee counties in Florida. She's a graduate of the University of Florida College of Ag, and she lives in Lakeland. We're gonna run a little video to introduce ourselves to Morgan, and then we're gonna come back and ask her some questions. So fill out those questions in the Q&A, and I promise you I will do my best to get them answered.
Happy Fertilizer Day. My name is Chris Glenn, and I'm with the Fertilizer Institute. Today, I'll be speaking with somebody from the Mosaic Company about their career in the fertilizer industry. For those of you unfamiliar with the Mosaic Company, they are a Fortune 500 company. They are based in Tampa, Florida. They are the second largest fertilizer company in the world and the largest U.S. producer of potash and phosphate fertilizer. They have operations in 9 countries in North and South America. They serve growers in 40 different countries, and they have over 13,000 employees. One of those employees is Morgan Odom, who has been kind enough to join us today to tell us about her work with Mosaic. Happy Fertilizer Day, Morgan. How are you?
Happy Fertilizer Day. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. To get started, please just go ahead and introduce yourself. And then if you can, please give us a real quick summary of what you do at Mosaic and what a typical day, if such a thing exists, looks like for you and your team.
Absolutely. Well, like Chris said, I am Morgan Odom and I work with the Mosaic Company. I have been with Mosaic for a little over 4 years as a public affairs specialist. So I work on our public affairs team here in Florida on our phosphate side of our business. I work primarily in Polk County and also Hardee County doing community outreach, community relations, and things like that. So a typical day, I'm not sure that they all look the same. They're all very different, but a typical day for me is just engaging with community members and stakeholders in Polk and Hardee County, explaining what we do at Mosaic, spreading our message and building the bridge between the community and our business, and then also working on the community investment side of our business, which allows me to work with local partners that are in organizations that are providing services to our community.
Great. Can you tell me why it's so important that that link between Mosaic and the community exists? And then as kind of a corollary to that, does Mosaic see itself as part of that same community in which that you're going out there and engaging with?
Absolutely. Great question. So the link between the community and our local stakeholders and community with Mosaic is extremely important. And I explained it as like building a bridge between our company and our community because it's extremely important for them to know what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. What phosphate is here locally is making an impact on our entire country and the food supply there. So the bridge, building the bridge and that link is extremely important. And I like to say that it's like a two-way street. So yes, we're educating the public, but I also like to build those relationships so that if anybody in the community has questions on, what does Mosaic do about this, or how do you handle this, they have a person and a face and a team that may not be able to answer all their questions, but I can definitely find someone within our company that can. And then your question about seeing us as part of the community, absolutely. I have lived in the community where I work my entire life, and just in Polk County alone where I work, we have 1,200 employees, over 1,200 employees that work for us, but also call Polk County home, which is where they live, where they work, where they raise their children, where their kids go to school. So we are absolutely a big piece of the community where we operate.
As an industry that does have an environmental impact, both in the production and the use of fertilizer, can you tell me a little bit about Mosaic's efforts and goals around sustainability?
As it relates to our production and our company and our business, just some examples of sustainability targets that we have. We have one to reduce freshwater use by 20% per ton by 2025. And then also one to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% per ton by 2025. So those kind of directly relate to the environment in our business. We also have a commitment to establish a system where our employees can track all of their volunteer hours, and so that we can report on that annually and really show that our people mean a lot to us, and also their impact on society and our community is important to us. And then relating to the actual use of fertilizer, we have a sustainability target that mentions that directly, where we have listed that we want to empower farmers in key growing areas in North America to reduce the impact of crop nutrient products on the environment by facilitating the implementation of 4R nutrient stewardship on 25 million acres, which is a large amount of acres by 2025. But we feel that it's extremely important, and that's a great program to implement.
Well, those are great goals. And I think the thing I find most impressive about that is the target date being 2025. I feel like oftentimes you read about a lot of these goals and they're kind of way off into the, like, by 2040, we're going to do this. And, 2025 is not far away. So that's very impressive, very ambitious and impressive. Pivoting away a little bit from Mosaic's efforts and putting the focus back on you and your role, where did you go to school? What did you study? And this is always one of my favorite questions. What did you think you were going to do when you finished school?
Yes, so I actually went to the University of Florida and I studied food and resource economics with a specialization in marketing and management. So go Gators. And through that program, I really found a love for like agribusiness and the marketing side, ag marketing, branding, things like that. So I honestly thought that I would work for a company and do some sort of like ag marketing, which isn't too far off from what I'm doing now. I just am not selling an actual product. I'm just working with the public and the community.
Now, both your father and your sister, I understand, work in ag education, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share with us a little bit about the path that you took that led you to Mosaic? And then as part of that, did your family connection to agriculture, did that play any role in the fact that you ended up working for a fertilizer company?
So I think it did help a lot just because I grew up a very active member of the 4-H and the FFA, with my father being an agricultural educator my whole life, and then my sister becoming one as well. Very involved in agriculture and FFA, traveling all over the United States through that organization, just learning about American agriculture and the role that it plays definitely sparked my interest. I think that my career path, I tell people that I think what led me here was my passion for people and agriculture and being able to put that into one position. I get to do that every day. I get to deal with people in agriculture every day. So I think that from the experience of my family being in agriculture, my dad being an agricultural educator, and the role that FFA played, just did help pave the path that got me to this role.
Looking back at your formal education, what were the most valuable skills that you think you learned in school that you use in your role, every day, and those skills that you use that have allowed you to be successful in what you're doing?
Well, I wish that I could say that the class I studied hardest for, which was quantitative methods, I wish I could. Really hard class. I don't use much from it, but I think the classes and the skills that I learned the most from were a lot of group projects, because first you learn how to work with different types of people, which that's going to help you with any role that you might have in your career. But really the group or the class projects where we are putting together plans and strategy documents on, communication aspects, marketing plans, things like that, just pulling together that information and coming up with strategy and plans like that. I use that a lot. Maybe not every day in my job, but it's definitely something that we use a lot in my current role.
I imagine that as you're out there doing your community outreach, you're probably sometimes dealing with strong emotions from people. Changes in the community, impacts to those people that are living in the community. You're dealing with fear of change or new things, sometimes false information. But any of those things, they're all deeply personal to people. So what kind of skills have you had to develop in order to not just connect with the community members from the factual, here's what we're doing, educational way, which is very, very important, but also on a more personal, deeper, kind of more caring level, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a great question. I'm glad that you point out, the factual information, because we always start with that. We always want to make sure that we're portraying all the facts and just laying out all of the information to make sure that we're being transparent, but also to educate the community. With that comes a lot of emotion because, like you said, I mean, our business may be close to their home or close to we're right in their backyard, and they may not know a lot about us. So that can come with a lot of strong emotions and things like that. And so a skill that I've had to really pull out is empathizing and listening. So making sure that I'm listening to all of their concerns. And then a way that I have really works through some of those strong emotions is to relate to people. I live here too. I've grown up here my entire life. Phosphate mining and phosphate manufacturing has been here for 100 years. And so this is something that our community thrives on and is an economic driver for our community. So making sure that I empathize with them and let them know that, like, I'm in it too. This is where I'm raising my family and where I live as well. Listening is a huge, huge skill. And then also really just driving home those factors of why it's so important that we operate here, and also explaining the big picture with the facts.
What's your favorite part about your job? And then I guess I got a lot. I guess it's a two-part question. One, what is the favorite part about your job? And then two, what is the most challenging part of your job?
Good question. So I would have to say my favorite part about my job is the people. So meaning a lot of different people. So the people that I work with in Mosaic, it is a great company. I am blessed to work with some of the most amazing people. Also our vendors and stakeholders that I get to work with, and then the community. So my role is external facing. So I get to work with a lot of people outside of Mosaic, whether that be county officials or local organizations or, the local high school principal. I just get to work with some of the most amazing people. And that really is what I enjoy most about my job. Challenges, I would say the most challenging part is explaining Mosaic and the importance of agriculture, fertilizer, food supply to folks that might not understand why agriculture is important even, so just trying to portray our story and our the necessity for fertilizer and agriculture and food to someone who might not understand why it's important. That's the most challenging part.
Advice be to anybody out there listening today that's thinking about getting started with a career in the fertilizer industry?
The fertilizer industry is an amazing industry to be a part of. I would say you don't have to be an engineer or a farmer to be part of this industry. I think one of the most eye-opening things that I saw coming to work for Mosaic was the amount of different departments and opportunities that there are within Mosaic and the fertilizer industry. Anything from our reclamation experts to ecologists to supply chain. It is just amazing, the opportunities and the vast amount of careers that are available within the fertilizer industry.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add or say to the students and educators who are joining us today in celebration of Fertilizer Day?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say is that we all know that we have a growing population that is growing vastly and quickly, and that our students are our next generation. And really, when I say that, it's important to start thinking now of how important it is to have a domestic food supply, an abundant domestic food supply. So think a farmer. Fertilizer is important. Keep us in mind whenever you're thinking about a career. And yeah, if you ever have any questions or need anything, you know where to find us.
Excellent. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for your time. It was absolutely wonderful to learn more about your role at Mosaic. And really just want to thank you for celebrating Global Fertilizer Day with us.
Thank you so much.
Nice job, Morgan.
Thank you. Hi.
Welcome to our celebration of Global Fertilizer Day. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, sure. Wow. You gave us a lot to think about there. And so it's kind of hard to figure out where to go. But one of the things that I was struck by is you come from a family of educators, and yet you went into the fertilizer industry. How did you make that decision?
So it was something that kind of came to me through going to the University of Florida. So I mentioned in the video through being part of the FFA organization and traveling across the country in high school, I spent a lot of time learning about farmers and agriculture across the entire United States, and really got to dive in and see, all of the different industries that were opportunities to go into. And then going to college at UF and studying food and resource economics, I really dug into specifically Florida's natural resources and ways to market and brand, and really just after college did an internship with Mosaic and fell in love.
So you did the internship with Mosaic, and then you stayed.
I did. I had a short time where I went and worked for Publix, which is the grocery chain here in the Southeast. Worked for them for a little while.
In the ag space as well. People
yes, it is.
That's eating too.
Yes, Publix is the grocery chain here. And so worked for them for about 8 months, but quickly made my way back to Mosaic.
Nice. And how long have you been there now?
I have been at Mosaic about 4.5 years.
Oh, that's terrific. Now, how much of your job is reactive? So you're taking questions versus going out into the community. You don't just sit at a desk, do you, Morgan?
Well, COVID has made that a little bit challenging, but pre-COVID times, yes, a lot of my time was spent more behind the windshield of my car, driving from place to place than my computer screen. So I would say proactive versus reactive. It really just depends on the time, but I would say it's about 75% proactive, a lot of out in the community outreach, going to different groups and civic clubs, and then about 25% reactive, just depending on what's going on. Nice.
Well, I want to remind everybody, ask your questions in the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen for Morgan, because, I'm going to let her off way too easy. You guys can ask the hard questions, and all I have to do is read them. But here's an easy one for you. You're talking to a lot of middle schooler, high schoolers. Were there any experiences in high school that kind of pointed you into this direction that you're going? What would you tell these high school kids to make sure they pay attention to?
I think STEM started to be a large initiative when I was in high school, and I think that really just diving into all of the opportunities that come with science, technology, engineering, and math. And then I also like to say STEAM and add arts in there sometimes as well. Just understanding that it's not the traditional science. It's not always the traditional science job. I think through some of those experiences and classes in high school, I realized that, there is a vast majority of careers that fall within the STEM framework that, aren't just a scientist reading a microscope. So I think that getting out of the traditional mindset of, science is in a lab all of the time, and just understanding that the career force is just so broad.
Well, I told you that we'd get some hard questions. Here's a hard one.
Oh boy.
I think you got the chops for this one, but it's kind of a hard one. What are some direct examples of how essential nutrients in the soil can affect the nutrition of our foods?
So I think that's a great question. And I
told you it was a hard one,
Yeah. So having to put on my science cap here. Right. So when you're looking at crops and per acre, you may get X amount of crops per acre without any fertilizer, without any added nutrients to the soil, just given the current nutrients and the organic matter that's in the soil. Adding, a traditional bag of NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to the soil, provides allows farmers and growers to get a lot more crops on a lot less land, which is an extremely important point to make whenever we talk about how fast our population is growing. When it comes to the specific nutrient matter in the food, I couldn't answer that specifically, but I know that the reason fertilizer is so important is just to a lot more crops on a lot less land. And, you know, land is something that is hard to come by these days because it's not something we can make more of. So our farmers are doing a great job making do with what the amount of land that we have. So fertilizer is a huge piece and component to that.
Nice. Good job. Sorry, I had to give you a hard one.
That's okay.
This one isn't quite so hard. So, you know, we've been talking about careers in the agriculture space and how to get into the agriculture space. But if you look out, say 5, 10, 15 years, what is your prediction for the world of fertilizer? Are those jobs still going to be there? Is it a good idea to think about getting into the fertilizer category now, given that, you know, some of these kids aren't going to be working for 10 years?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I think we're seeing that in our business right now with our next gen technology. So I think, yes, I think fertilizer jobs are important and they're going to be here for a very long time. The way that we do business and the way that we work may change a little bit over the next 20 years. And we are actually implementing some of those things now through our next gen technology, meaning that an operator that was driving a pit car at the site is now operating that pit car from an office in a comfy office chair with screens in real time, with almost like a video game. So things are changing, absolutely. But I do think that those jobs are going to be important in 10, 20, 30 years as well. There's going to be a lot more technology into those careers and jobs.
People got to eat, right, Morgan?
Yes.
As long as they got to eat, we got to help them provide that food.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's really the way to think about the fertilizer industry, isn't it? Is that we are helping provide an essential service. Is that part of your messaging when you're out in the community?
Absolutely. I think for the community that I work in, I think it's important for me to say, you know, the industry that we have here in Florida, which is a billion-dollar industry, phosphate, here in Florida, the impact that it's making on the entire country and the entire world, the fertilizer, the phosphate that we are mining and manufacturing here is being distributed and is extremely important to our global food supply. So I think that's a huge part of the message locally, is like, this is a huge economic driver here that is making a difference globally. Right. That's another great point, is that all food is local, but it's a global industry, and we have to keep our minds open to working globally. One last question for you. I'll make it an easy one. Any piece of advice for the kids who are watching this? Oh boy, I gave a little bit of advice in the video, but I would say really just figure out what you enjoy to do, because we work for quite a few years of our life. So find something that you are interested in that challenges you maybe a little bit, and really just chase that. Because I think once I understood how passionate I felt about interacting with people, and then with that layering agricultural passion as well, I think that really helped direct me to my current career. I think when you're in middle school and high school, they're challenging you to pick a career and choose a path, and that can be a little bit intimidating. Even when you're in college, it can be intimidating. So I think once you really figure out what you enjoy doing, figure out what you are passionate about, and then follow that, that's probably the best advice that I can give that really helps pave that path. And it's also okay to take a few false starts and find out what you don't like doing, right? Absolutely. Like maybe that job at Publix. Yes, I love Publix. Is a great company, but sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day just wasn't for me. That's, you had to figure that out. I did. And that's the message. It's okay to go figure those things out.
Uh, just ask Morgan, it seems to work out.
Yes, it does.
Morgan, thank you very much. You did a fantastic job. We don't have any more questions. And you know what? You just were the cleanup hitter for Global Fertilizer Day, which is great. We are at the end of our program, and I want to thank all of the teachers, all of the kids, all of the industry folks who logged on today. I want to thank Corey and the 6 folks who spent some time with us, including you, Morgan. Thank you very much for giving of your day today to talk about your job, talk about this industry that we love, and go back to that idea that we started with. This is an essential industry that is completely unheralded. There are 500,000 people working in this industry. There are great jobs there. And without fertilizer, 40% of the population goes to bed hungry. Let's join together in celebrating the farmers who use the fertilizer. We're going to go out on a video here, but I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and for listening. Thank Morgan and everybody else who participated. This has been a fun one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carl. Happy fertilizer.
I hope I never forget the lessons you taught me. Like how to test and replenish the soil. And how a good farmer values clean water alongside healthy land. You taught me to be patient in lean years, to be grateful in others. You taught me the value of a calloused hand, the cost of an indifferent mind. That you have to read the land and learn from it. You taught me there are probably easier ways to make a living than this. You taught me that grit means putting in a 90-hour work week and staying up late for a bedtime story. You showed me that some of my most important investments would be made right here in my fields. That a farm is one of the world's best classrooms. You taught me that feeding the soil is the first step in feeding a soul. You showed me that being a neighbor means more than sharing gravel roads. That amazing things can happen when we work together. You taught me to have faith. That when we are gone, this land will remain enriched and grow food that nourishes future generations. You taught me of all the seeds we plant, the most important thing of all, hope.